We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Thanks for watching this video. Many of you already are watching because it has to do with haunted attractions. Now the scenes you're going to see in this video were taken from 1998. So this is like 21 years ago when they actually did this. Basically it was a promotion to advertise for certain attractions, and these are all over the United States, not just in one state. And some of them definitely do not exist anymore probably. But I was watching the video and I realized that one segment of one of these attractions used a strobe light. And I remember over and over again in my past childhood that there was a haunted house somewhere in Atlanta or near it, probably maybe either in Norcross, maybe in Buckhead, somewhere. And they took an old mansion and they converted it to a haunted house. And they had like a walk bridge across what, to this day I can remember, it seemed like it was an indoor swimming pool. And they would shoot these strobe lights at you the whole time. And it disorientated you. You couldn't get across without, because you couldn't focus your eyes on the bridge because it was flashing so fast. And I decided, well, maybe I could share some other attractions with people. They might comment and relate to it. So I just wanted to bring out the fact that my own haunted house experience was never identified. I never found out who actually ran it. I would think probably it was one of the universities or colleges in Atlanta, but I cannot to this day remember did it. And they had several rooms, and they were more or less at the back of the house. And they put white sheets up, and they shined flashlights at these action figures of Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, some other characters, and that was long before The Empire Strikes Back, and they showed that Luke was fighting Darth Vader as action figures. I still remember that. The only other thing I still remember about the whole attraction was we were outside, we're waiting to go in. I looked up at the attic, it had a window, and somebody looked out of the attic down at me and all over, you know? So when I got to go into the attraction, I was able, through this tour, to finally get to the attic. And when I saw it, I realized there is nobody up here. There is nobody as a part of the attraction to scare people. So who I saw was not either part of the attraction as far as the staff or the employees, because nobody was ever stationed up there. So whoever it was I saw from that window had to have been a spirit or something. But I never forgot that, because I remember looking up, I was like, boy, this is a scary place. And all of a sudden, I saw a face looking out of the window. And it looked down at me, it looked at some of the other kids that were with me, because this was when I was in elementary school. And one of our chaperones was one of the custodians from our church, because it was a Christian school. And she had taken us out there for this attraction. I still don't know where it was or when, but it was in 1978. That's when I went, 1978. I'm trying to archive, search out all of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution of the haunted houses that existed back at that time. There is nothing that comes close to what I saw. And it was a big enough house, they were able to remodify it. It was an abandoned place. And they put all these gimmick things in there, you know. And who can say whether or not they even did it after the year I went. But I never forgot that. Maybe if somebody sees this video, you might say, oh yeah, I remember that. I went there. Comment, tell me where it was. Did it become some other attraction like they have in Atlanta today? They've got several haunted house attractions that, I mean, they've catapulted their size for popularity. And I have never seen that house after I went to it that one time. And like I say, they had to have had a swimming pool, an indoor swimming pool in that house, because they put that wall bridge totally across with ropes. They hung them down from the ceiling, and then the strobe lights are behind you. So you're going straight ahead, and they're flashing these things, and those strobes kept ricocheting the lights off of everything. It totally disorientated you. And I was scared I was going to fall in the swimming pool, because I'm sitting here holding on to it, and they're like, keep moving, keep moving. And I'm like, I can't even make out where I'm at, you know? So that's one part of the attraction I'll never forget. And I decided I'll share some of these other videos that I found of these haunted attractions. And maybe somebody might remember some of them, you know, or maybe they still exist. Maybe they've upgraded them 20-something years later. But ain't that ironic? This video was made in 1998. That's 20 years after I went to my own haunted house. And to this day, I still don't know what it was, or who actually ran it. I don't know if it was a JC's, if it was maybe some other church decided to do something like this. But I'll never, ever forget that haunted house. As long as I live, I'll never forget it. Because it was so good. And all of the other stuff you saw, it was at least a 3-level house. You progressed with this tour, and when we got to the attic, I remember the person who was doing the tour was with us. So it's like you couldn't wander the house by yourself. You had to go with this tour guide. And when I got up to that top floor, I looked at the window, and I thought, that's where I saw that face. But there was nobody up there. As far as, there's no guy in a costume waiting to scare you. There was no other staff member up there wanting to help people get out of that area, back down the house, down to the lower levels. There was nobody. So whatever I saw, whoever I saw in that window, it could not have been one of their people, because the attraction was running at the time that I actually got there. They were starting to let people in. So if he was supposed to be up there to watch to see how big a crowd they had, he couldn't have done it because they were already doing the tour. So whoever it was scared the jubeaties out of my life. I mean, I never forgot it, because I was like, who was that I saw in that window? And I still don't know who ran it. I bet you the house was torn down because it was an abandoned mansion. It had been a mansion. Only mansions have indoor swimming pools. And it's either that or it was a sunken living. You know, like they sunk the whole floor of that house down below where the entrance was, or it was a swimming pool. It was one or the other. But when they strung that walkway, and it was just wooden planks on a rope, and you had the rope ties, and you just had to hold on to them as you were going across, that was outlandish for them to have done that, especially in the 70s, because you didn't want to do something and scare people to the point where it might end up hurting them, because there was no such thing then as safety insurance, safety this, all that horse crap. It didn't exist back then. You really got scared. Watch Halloween, the second movie. You saw a kid in the emergency room at the hospital. Somebody had stuck a razor blade in the apple that he was eating, and it was actually in his mouth. Those things happened during the 70s. I can remember that. They always told you, if you get candy or an apple or something else, you don't eat it until your parents get a chance to look at it. Because otherwise, they could have tainted it with something. They could have put razor blades in it, whatever. So, to me, it was really a fun time to be alive, because you could still do things and have fun. And now they're too concerned about safety that it blows the whole experience, because of all these concerns that they have about, well, we don't want to be sued by this parent or that parent for not taking any necessary precautions or whatever. So I hope maybe someday somebody will watch this video and knew who that haunted house attraction was. This was October 31st, 1978, and we went out there, and it was such a good layout. They had areas roped off where the crowd could walk up, and then once they sent another tour guide out, and they would tell you, you run across, and there'll be somebody to meet up the group that you're in, and then they would take you all into these different rooms. And in the case of seeing those white sheets that were lit up with the Star Wars figures, that was a part of the tour. You walked down the hallway, and all these different rooms were lit up with the attraction of the action figures. And of course, you're going to say, "Oh, that's cheap." Well, yeah, maybe it was, but at that time, nobody even knew that Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker would even fight each other one day. So that was like somebody was already thinking ahead that it was going to happen, because I saw that in that haunted house. And honestly, I don't remember anything else about the rest of the house. I remember only those three things: the attic, the rooms with the white sheets and the flashlights shining on them, and the strobe lights. That was to totally thank you when you came in. You was thinking, "Oh, it's going to be just an ordinary tour," and then you see these flashing strobe lights, and then you see the walkway across, and it's like you got to run across, because that's where the other group is. So you're sitting there and you're trying as hard as you can to get across, and you're thinking, this is so disorientating. You felt like you were going to fall. You did. You felt like you were going to fall off because they were flashing so fast. Nowadays they wouldn't do it because they say, "Oh, these people could have epileptic seizures or whatever." You didn't worry about that back in the 70s. There was no such thing. So it was. I'll never forget it. I will never forget that haunted house attraction. And whoever set it up and whoever did it, you see this video, hey, you guys had it right on. It was exactly the kind of thing that really we do need today in this world. We need some way to give kids real scare tactics. And that did it. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.
Calling all the witches and the warlocks too. 'Cause the goblins got a party going on for you. They're cooking up a batch of some magic brew. About 100 potions are in store for you. Hear ye, one and all. You're invited to the Goblin's Ball. Hear ye, one and all. It's Halloween night at the Goblin's Ball. Hear ye, one and all. It's a Halloween night at the Goblin's Ball. Calling all the witches and the warlocks too. 'Cause the goblins got a party going on for you. They're cooking up a batch of some magic brew. About 100 potions on store for you. Hear ye, one and all. You're invited to the Goblin's Ball. Hear ye, one and all. It's Halloween night at the Goblin's Ball. Hear ye, one and all.
The following program contains scenes from various haunted house attractions from 21 years ago. It is unknown if these attractions still exist. We hope you enjoyed reliving those days when it was fun being a kid and you could have a fun time without worrying about being sued. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't be scared of hitting that like button. That won't give me any money, but I'd love to see more people express themselves through their likes and subscribes, because before too long we won't be able to anymore with socialism taking over our lives and our nation. This has been a Paranormal Television production, copyright 2019. Come again. and remember to hit that like button if you want.